our own things. And actually, we are working in this direction from couple of years. My presentation will take you your journey from applications of sensor, which we know that the main part of our life. If we can't sense, you can't. I think your brain will not even work, which is working as a CPU. And but the applications in non-destructive testing and evaluation, definitely we all are acquainted with sensors for biomedical application has to be non-invasive, because you cannot cut the body and use the sensor to and find out where is it. That means it is the post-mortem and you are no more. Similarly, for materials, general approach was to do the destructive testing and how this material is behaving, when it is going to fail. Like human being, all material is also having its own life. All components are having its own life, and this life has to be judged non-destructively. Chandan, can you share? You can keep it that slide, there is no problem.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Keep
Okay,
the slide on.
okay.
Yeah. And go to the next slide. That's better. So in this, I'll give you just some flavor of sensors and NDE, because many of you are, all of you are mostly from electronics and communication branch. And as it has already been mentioned, my basic background is physics, and then we take an MTech from radio physics and electronics. If a couple of you have already attended the first lecture of T.K. Bhattacharya, who is also my alumni, senior to me definitely, 4 years. And then how in metallurgical laboratory we have used our own capability, our own background for applications of electronics, and which is definitely required everywhere, and multidisciplinary experience to come up with couple of ideas which can go to the industry and help the industry with a solution which can help their components to be alive and to continue its life without a safe life, without a premature failure. So after glimpse of sensor and ND, the most of my topic will cover ultrasonic sensor and fiber bracketting sensor. These are the two things I will mostly cover. And for ultrasonic, there will be some basic principle and methods, inspection techniques, equipment and instrumentation, some typical applications. Then from single point sensor to array sensor, because as we all know, what is the advantage of array? And from there to point-to-point inspection, how we can go to a embedded sensor, which can, it's like a paradigm shift from point-to-point to structural health monitoring. So from ND to structural health monitoring. There I will talk about application of piezo sensor as well as fiber bracketting sensor. Then ultimately it will come to a role of big data analysis and IoT, because sensor is a main heart of any technique which gives you the data. Now what will you with the data, and what are the informative data and what are the false data? So everything requires the proper analysis of the data. And then today, as like industrial IoT, it has to be cyber physical marriage, and you need to be more predictive than reactive. So with this, can you come to the next slide, Chandan? So why I have put it, you can see the top heading is I am writing ears and eyes of NDT and SHMS sensor. True. Just like we do with our eye, with our ear, with our nose, with our tongue, we sense. And this sensing is done by sensor. Now, when we talk about sensor, many times it is interchangeable. We mix up. What is it? Sometimes we call transducer, sometimes we call sensor. And many times you will find we are not properly utilizing these words. So I thought I must say what is transducer and what is sensor. What is transducer? Actually, transducer are those sensors which converts energy from one form to another. So that, for example, I have given here just like our incandescent bulb. When I talk about sensor and ultrasonic sensor, piezo sensor, that is one of the biggest example of transducer. But what are the sensor? Sensor means when it generates some information, it interprets that signal. Just like our all five senses. This captured, but this doesn't say anything until and unless it goes to the brain, and brain is giving you the information. So it is getting the signal, and that signal is getting interpreted by your brain. So whatever is only, mostly it is in the receiving part, when it interpret your signal, that's a sensor. And if you find in an excitation case, mostly it is a conversion of energy, and there we call it is a transducer. And then to the next. Yeah. So my title was Sensor for NDT. So what is NDT? So very nicely I've given a picture of a baby in a fetus of mom. You can see the baby nicely sleeping on a mom's features, and that has been taken not by cutting the stomach, but by taking an ultrasound picture. So completely non-invasive. So basically non-invasive means to find the integrity of a material or component or body and quantitatively measure some characteristic of that object. That means without any harm, without doing any harm, you are getting the information. So in one word, if I define NDT, we can easily say it is inspect or measured without doing any harm. It could be a material, it could be a human body. Next, Chandan. And if you see the applications on ND, it's a wide, very, very wide. From underground pipelines to spacecraft, it covers the whole gamut of our whole globe. You can talk about anything. You can talk about airframe, iron and steel company, oil and gas, underground pipelines, railways, spacecraft. Everybody needs safety. Everywhere you need reduced maintenance and increased life. All these three are interlinked. If I can increase the life, I can save lots of cost. So everything is also connected to cost. If I know what is the exact situation, I can pre-plan when I will do the maintenance. So it will reduce the maintenance. Same for our own body. If you go for a regular checkup and you know what is the status, you can have proper medication. And then you can improve the safety of your life. Similarly, here also you can improve the safety of a. Can I mute your mic, all of you? Thank you. So exactly you can compare material with human body and can understand this subject much better, because the way we understand ourselves, nobody can understand in that way. And that is the best way to learn ND for material and component. Chandan, the next. So when you find the wide applications of ND, there could be large number of techniques are also evolving. Just like in our case, CT scan, NMR, X-ray, ultrasound, and every day you are getting new name of the medical techniques. Similarly, for ND also there are a large number of techniques are evolving, but the most 6 common ND techniques I have listed here. And if you look at it, 2 techniques I have marked in some different color because these are very known to you as it used for your own body. So as I already told, the ND involves development of measurement and analysis technologies, because I'm trying to give you a sense why the electronics and computer science is so much important in the area of ND. It's a measurement and analysis technology. So all measurement and analysis technology needs a good electronics people, a good analytics, then quantitative characterization of materials and structure in a non-invasive manner. So the moment you are talking about quantitative characterization, you need artificial intelligence, you need big data analysis, maybe machine learning, deep learning. So all these are integral part of ND assessment in the today's scenario. Next. And the next. as I told you, most of my presentation will cover up ultrasound. And I know everybody is aware about what is ultrasound. I don't have to talk about it. But it's a mechanical wave. And when the crystal vibrates at a particular frequency, that frequency of wave propagates. And the frequency range is normally 20 kilohertz above. And NDT, the normal frequency we use, it is 20 kilohertz above to 10 to, nowadays it can go up to 100 megahertz. So frequency range can go even up to 100 megahertz. And many applications, as I have already mentioned. And then the next.
हम बोल रहे हैं आप वहाँ पर kindly कोई अगर आ रहा है तो उसको accept कर दीजिए ना सर. Yes sir.
And then can you change?
Yes ma'am.
Just click on, no issue. Yeah. So these are all basic principle. I don't have to explain. And then you are.
हम आलोक को बोले वो picture ले रहा है sir.
Chandan.
Yes ma'am.
I'm getting interrupting by your voice. Can you message to sir? That is better.
Okay ma'am.
So as we all know, sound cannot travel, and because this energy goes from one point to another particle, just click on a click. Continuously click, yeah, click, click, and click. So, and based on the material's basic atomic structure, the sound velocity varies. Like in solid, we find the maximum velocity, then liquid, and then to gas, because the atoms are quite not so close packed in case of solid, liquid and gas. And even the sound and light, these are all very similar in properties. They all follows the same properties like light, because mostly I found the light is very much understandable by people. So, but sound is also following the same rules. Go to the next. This slide you can skip very hard. Yeah, keep it here. And then go back. So when we talk about the characteristic of ultrasonic waves, so these are the 6 points which are very, very important. It freely propagates through gases, liquids, and solid. That's why this technique is very widely used in all type of materials. It's not only bound to metallic or only bound to conducting like other electromagnetic techniques. This is the only technique which can be used for any type of material. It could be ceramic, it could be concrete, it could be metallic, it could be gaseous, fluid, whatever is the form of material. It reflects at boundaries, as I have told, capable of being focused, and that's very important. That means you can make a focused beam. So you know where I have to focus and which point I have to get the information. So that is also possible. Suitable for real-time processing, that is already, I will explain. Harmless to the human body. That's why the ultrasound is the first technique which is being used for our any testing. And non-destructive to material. Go to the next. Next. Yeah. So here I'm just showing all the time we talk about, but it seems like when wave is propagating, that means whole wave is, that means all particles are propagating, but it's not. Actually, the particle is dancing in their own position and it's transferring its energy from one to another. And in that way, that sine wave whole propagates. Go to the next. Based on this property of particle displacement, actually we see mainly two types of waves which you have read in your school life. That it could be longitudinal wave, that means when the direction of travel and the particle motion both are in the same direction. But look at in this case the sound velocity. Sound velocity is very much dependent on the intrinsic properties of the material. It depends on the Young's modulus, it depends on the Poisson's ratio, it depends on the density. So all these property makes this sound as a technique which can determine indirectly the property of the material. Go to the next. And the another is the transverse wave. But here the direction of travel and the particle motion are perpendicular to each other. And as you know that there is no propagation, because you can see this is only, there is bulk modulus is coming. So there is no propagation through liquid and gases. So whenever we talk about any fluid mechanics or in fluid, you want to get the fluid velocity, you have to use the longitudinal. And these things are why important, because when you design a sensor, you need to know what type of sensor I will use. So what type of wave has to be propagated. Accordingly, you need to make your own sensor. So these all parameters are important to look into when I am having my own sensor or I have to fabricate my own sensor. Go to the next. So you can skip, you can go to the next also. I'll talk about it. And then skip. Yeah. So now coming to the different type of transducer for ultrasonic testing. As I told, the transducer or the sensor is the heart of the measurement. That means I have to generate the sound wave. First thing is the generator. If I don't have the sound wave, how can I get the information of the body? That means I need the sensor. So there are various types of sensors are available. How I will construct the sensor? Go to the next. So now this transducer could be of different type of material I can use, but which should have a property of converting from electrical to mechanical or mechanical to electrical when I am receiving. The best possible way is using the piezo sensor, piezoelectric material. Go to the next, Chandana. So it could be piezoelectric material, or it could be laser. It could be electromagnetic sensor like EMAT. How piezo effect work? So basically, when this transducer is, the crystal is having some thickness. Whenever you made the crystal, suppose it's a quartz, it's of a particular thickness. Now click, and then click. If you connect, depending on the polarity, the crystal thickens and then again thin. Click. Click it. Yeah. So depending on the polarity, then once it will be thicker and thinner. So, but now think, if we are giving a sinusoidal wave, that means continuously there will be a change in dimension, and that will go as a sound wave which will propagate as per the frequency of your excitation. Go to the next. So when we talk about basic piezo material, we talk always about the quartz crystal. But there are many disadvantages of the quartz crystal. The first thing is it's highly anisotropic. One highly anisotropic material, if I want to generate the wave, it will be very, very difficult. Cutting is also another problem. So that's why we came up with the man-made materials. So next, Chandan. Here is the research. What type of material you can produce, you can make at your own area. So it's a fully semiconductor people are required for here. So here is also depends how good you are in material development, being an electronics engineer. So man-made materials, there are many materials has come up, just like barium titanate, lead titanate zirconate, PZT, which is the mostly used material. Also now lithium niobate, because you want to use it, that has to extend high power and high, and if you have to go to the higher temperature, there is a need of development of many new materials which can sustain high temperature. Because most of these material, what I am talking about, their Curie temperature is about 400 degrees centigrade. Now, when you go for the high temperature component, real-time data analysis, you are handicapped. This material you cannot use. So there is a complete open space gap where you need to do some research and you can develop material which can sustain at high temperature. This Curie temperature you can change. So think of material which can be used for the high temperature. Next. So similarly here, the man-made, these are the polymers. Go to the next. A large amount of research work is going on, even on all academic institutes also, to have thin film, spray type of piezo material, which you can simply spray on the component and that can act as a sensor. So it's a very, very open field where you have lot of research can be done. When you look at the construction of the transducer, because not the only material, because any material, as we all know, the sound is a spherical wave. That means when the wave we will generate, it will propagate in all direction. But you want to confine in a particular direction. That means your backward wave has to be damped. So if you see the construction, there is the electrode and then the backing material, which is stopping your backward all energy in the opposite direction. Then there is a casing, And also there is a, which is very, very important in all our electronic component, is the impedance matching layer. So at before the, just prior to the crystal, there is an impedance matching layer. So this is the whole as the construction, and then you can have a look how the sturdy crystal looks or the sensor looks when the construction is over, fabrication is over. Next. So most of our research, we find that academic institute, when we do, we are sometimes only stopped our research into the material development, and that material remains at the lab. And there we are lacking because we don't go up to the fabrication type. If we don't go up to the fabrication and its applications, then most of the research I find it is confined will only in papers and not beyond that, which is now very much required to come up from this type of comfort zone of research and come forward, do the research which are industry applicable, which has some applications, and you can at least one device or one fabricated thing you can make, which is useful for the society or for the industry. So here you can see that, Chandan, you can go to the next because this is the same thing. Yeah. So not only the construction, you have to look many things that how the sound beam will be. Click on. Chandan, click, there are animation. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the sound beam, when it propagates, it doesn't propagate like a line. Though we say that light is propagating in a line, but this beam has a particular aperture. And this aperture can be divided into two parts. Chandan, click. So this is Chandan. Yeah. Just stop here. So there are, click once more. Yes. Go back. Yes. So there are two zones normally created. One is called the near zone. If you see the near zone, the signal is there is no proper nature of the signal. Whereas the another zone, which is called the far zone, this is exponential decay, which exactly we feel when the sound wave propagates. Like if I speak, after certain distance, you can't hear it because it is decaying with distance. And that decay happens after certain distance of the from the sensor. That means you need to, when you fabricate, all these things are very, very important parameter. How I will design so that I can reduce my near zone. It will be mostly in the far zone working. But how? But there is an equation for that. Go to the next. Yeah. Once more. Yeah. So there is an equation for the near zone. What are the things? It is in my hand. In my hand is the diameter of the crystal. I have the frequency and the voltage. So near zone is dependent on all these parameters. So I can play with this and know if it is a high frequency application, what will be the diameter, because that is the main part which is in my hand. What is the part? So all these you can characterize when you are fabricating a sensor. Next. Next. Similarly, the beam spread, because if it's spreading more, so your energy is basically becoming more diffracting. So not confined in a particular position. So more divergence, not convergence. So I have to reduce this beam width. If we have to reduce this beam width, that again dependent on the diameter and frequency. So depending on what frequency I am using, you can steer these parameters, how you want to make and for what applications you are going to use it. Go to the next. Next. Yeah. So go back. Yeah. And all this analysis also you can do that. So one was how the beam path will be, and second is suppose it's a converging beam, then how I will make it, what is the focal point of the sensor. So that is also all you can steer by making your own material and the thickness of by changing the thickness of the material and dia of the palette. So all these are very, very important parameters when one is designing, when is developing material for ultrasound applications, and after that they want to apply it for the industrial applications or in the practical applications. Go to the next. see how this normally, now how ultrasonic test is getting done. The first thing is the transducer. So you have to place the transducer on your body or on a material. Now, if there is no defect in the material, it will simply come from the another wall. That is what is the thickness of the material from there. But if there is any defect, so it will get the signal from there, and in the time scale, you can clearly get where is the defect. The same thing happens in our body. When we place the ultrasound sensor on your stomach, on your belly, and there is a fluid and the tissue, completely different acoustic impedance. So the reflection will come from the tissue, and if you image the whole thing, you will get the whole image of your baby in the fetus. Or suppose there is a stone in your body, and that whole stone can be visible on the screen. Go to the next. So here, this couple of things I have shown that when this beam sprayed, depending on this beam sprayed, what type of defect you can get and what type of signal you will see on your screen. If it is bigger, then the back wall echo, most of the energy will come from the defect, and your back wall echo will not be visible. But if your defect is very, very small, then some amount of energy will come back from the defect, whereas most of the energy will go to the back wall, and you will get a big back wall echo. Go to the next. So this is if all defects are on the same line, on the same positions, how this defect echo comes. Go to the next. Yeah. Now, if it is a different reverse, you think two cases can happen. Depth can be the same, but defect size can be different. But another case can happen, defect size is the same, but depth are different. So which is nearer, that will give me bigger amplitude, because in the beam path, that will cover up mostly the beam width. Whereas if it is in a deeper region, then most of the energy will go to the back wall, because your defect is a small part of the beam path, and you will get a small defect echo. So this, but there is a way how you do analysis, because you know in the time scale where it locates. So you know if it's away from the surface, that means it's the same size defect, but it's because of the distance only, it is amplitude is small. Go to the next. Now all these things I was talking about in a point to point. Now it's very tedious, point to point and measuring it. But as we all know, the vision, when we see something, that is more interpretable. So then how I will see? That means I have to make an image. How you can do the image? That means you have to scan in a raster mode. So that's called the C-scan. So there are three terms very much used in ultrasound. That is the A-scan, B-scan, and C-scan. What is A-scan? It is actually the raw signal, what you are observing. Any signal, you think of any signal, any image when we get from the signal only. So time versus amplitude signal is the A-scan. What is B-scan? When I do the line scan, that means I am not going to the depth, only X and Y, that I am following. What is C-scan? When I get X, Y, Z and the amplitude. So that is basically my full image intensity graph. If you plot, then you will get the whole image of the thing. Just one next slide example will give you a very clear-cut picture. Go to the next. Go to the next. I don't want to explain this. Go to the next. Yeah, next. Yes. Click. Next. Stop. Yeah. So here you can see basically there was a block which are having some side drill, some flat bottom hole, and the steps. In this case, what are the A, B, and C scan? The left corner top is the A scan, which is the raw signal. You can see there are different multiple reflections coming from the back wall. The right top is the B scan. The left down is the C scan. You can clearly say there are different holes. The color is giving you what is of the hole. And the right down is the basically 3D view of this. So exactly like I have shown you the baby in a fetus. Go to the next. Now, how you can use all these things? So basically, ultrasound is having enormous applications. You can have flaw detection, you can have corrosion mapping, you can assess the bond integrity, you can measure the key certain, estimate the grain size. Whatever you talk about, you can get from the ultrasound. Go to the next. Yeah. Click, Chandan, click faster. Yeah, stop it. So when you do the imaging, one very disadvantage of ultrasound is sound cannot propagate through air because this velocity, there is a very high impedance mismatch between the metallic, it propagates through air, but metallic and the air. Now what will happen because of this impedance mismatch, the most of the energy will be absorbed in the air and no energy will further go into the material. So what you need a coupling material. If any of you have gone for ultrasound, you have seen they put some gel on your body because that acts as the coupling between the sensor surface and your body. So no wave energy is absorbed by air. Now, if I have to do the imaging, that means I cannot put this probe onto the sample. If I cannot put the probe onto the sample, then what I have to do in a non-contact method, that means I need some liquid coupling. So mostly water is used, and in a tank, if you immerse, if you keep your sample and that is filled with water, and then the sensor can move in a raster mode, and you can get the whole signal, and then how you will get the information. There should be something which can pick the information, and those things are called the gate. So the gate can be placed on the back wall echo, or it can be placed in between the back wall echo and the echo which is coming from the water and the material interface. That is the surface of the material where you are focusing your sensor. So in between your material, interface echo and the back wall echo. So if there is any defect, that will come in between these two echoes. And if I get all this information by placing my gate, which is basically picking up all those amplitude value, and then I plot the intensity plot, you can see one image is showing here. There are lots of red dots, which are high amplitude defects echo, very clearly. So by looking at this picture, you can say, oh, there are all red dot, that means these are the defects. So my material is having so many defects. And if I go to the defect position, it will also give you at what depth it is. So that means you are getting your depth, you are getting your X and Y location, and then you can take a proper call. What are you going to do with this material? Go to the next. This has been used. Here's one example I'm giving how you can generate the macro structure of a body. So basically a cast billet, and in the cast billet there are two type of structure comes, and you can see the image is also very nicely showing the structure, columnar and the equiax zone, and also the central zone where it is basically the porous zone. Go to the next. Same has been used. Suppose corrosion, you see many places corroded pipe. And corrosion could be different type of corrosion. It could be surface corrosion, it could be pitting corrosion. And if there is a pit, no, it's like basically this pit is a very dangerous thing. It acts as a failure. It is an initiation of crack zone. So this also you can image by ultrasound. Go to the next. Go to the next. Yeah. So we have also done this thing by comparing with a destructive technique and showed that by UT imaging, you can exactly reproduce the data which can be done in two destructive techniques. One is optical and another is profilometer. That means depth and the size. Both you can get by only UT imaging. Go to the next. So when we have used, so where are the also some of the lacking of the system what we purchase from abroad also. We import. All these we are importing. And when we use the system, we found there are some loophole, something which we are not able to use properly because there is a limitation of the equipment. And there you need your own things to be developed. So here is one such example of the software which has been developed by my students only. Because when we were doing this analysis, we were finding if the defect shape is not a proper shape, we are unable to analyze the depth and the size using the inbuilt software which has been supplied with the system. So the software has been developed at NML for a proper analysis, and this is full image processing software on MATLAB. So here again, you can understand which background is required. Go to the next. So till now, when I was talking about the sensor, which is a single sensor, and that is doing the scanning or the point-to-point scan. But is it possible for human body also to use a single point sensor? You cannot use it because it will take a lot of time for diagnose the problem. So when you look at the sensor, what we use for our human body, it's called the phased array sensor. That means it's an array sensor. Now, how can you make an array sensor? Go to the next. Then just click, huh? Chandan, just click. Stop. Go back. Yes. So therefore, when we talk about array sensor, it could be two types. It could be a linear array, one day, in a long conventional probe, or it could cut in a small elements. Now, each element, we can give a delay. So you see how much electronics is required in the next slide. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So each element has been given a different delay, and based on the way you are giving this delay, it can merge as a converging way or as a diverging way, and can focus onto a particular flaw or particular place what you want to check. Like suppose there is a stone, so it is exactly focusing on the stone. Okay. So to generate a beam, the various probe elements are pulsed at slightly different times. So full electronics. By precisely controlling the delays between the probe elements, we can choose where will be the focal point or the focal spot size of your element. Okay, go to the next. Go to the next. This is already I have explained. Yeah. Go to the next. So not only that, you can even do the beam steering, because in this if you create a beam steering, then you can do a scan, that is a sectorial scan. And if you do the sectorial scan, that means you are covering a large area in one go. And the next, in one go, you are covering from 0 to 70 degree, large range of inspection angles. Next, click multiple modes with a single probe. That means you can create different longitudinal and shear both way. Next. Next. Yeah. So two types you can create. One is the sectorial scan and the linear scan. Depending on your applications, you can apply. Okay. So go to the next. Go faster in this slides, Chandan, because these are all the basic things. And what is the advantage of here? Suppose this type of complicated structure you cannot do by a conventional way. So you need an array probe where you can each teeth you can focus by depending on choice of your sensor. Go to the next, and then come to the main presentation. Go to the next. These are some of the applications of the phased array where you can see the corner crack. And if you see the holes here, small holes, how it is reflecting here, and all positioning you can find out. Go to the next. And here is just the difference between those two. Yeah. Here, just stop for a second. Go back. Go to the next. Next. Yeah. Stop. Here I am just want to say you a couple of things here. Now, ultrasound, mostly whatever I have talked about is at the diagnostic ultrasound. That means first you see and then you give the medicine. You can do the diagnosis. But this can be used in a both way. It could be therapeutic also. How it is therapeutic? If I use a high intensity ultrasound, this can be used for treatment of some cancerous cells, tumors, cyst. That means you can directly burn it. Okay. So that ultrasound has both type of applications. It could be therapeutic, could be diagnostic in human body. Similarly in material. Go to the next. Yeah. So in case of material, This therapeutic ultrasound can change the microstructure of the whole material by doing a high intensity ultrasound. And the right side, just like a human body I showed, it is a diagnostic, because if you know how much is my, is there any crack, is there any delamination, is there any void, I can do proper treatment, or I can do the proper diagnosis to get to remove those cracks if it is a surface, it's on the surface, or I can discard that material. So same thing is in both the cases. Next. And the next. Okay, go to the next. Yes. So actually, it was all those. I think nearly 1 hour I talked about mostly on some basic things, which is the conventional point-to-point ND. But today, when I talk about point-to-point ND, it mostly takes the labor. And nowadays, if I talk about 90% labor and 10% technology, most of the industry will tell me we don't need this technique, because this is only killing our time. And so think something which is technologically very advanced. And how can you do that? That means you can do by embedding your sensor on the body and can get the information sitting in your control room. So these are the couple of things I'm going to talk about in my next few slides, how you can do that. Okay, go to the next. We'll start with our one very good work with ISRO. So that means here the application of piezo sensor, which I was talking about continuously till now on the point-to-point fraud detection, imaging, or getting the information of delamination or crack. The same piezo sensor where we have used for, we are using for life assessment of spacecraft on board. And then just go to the next and stop there. Yeah. So what was the motivation and need? Maybe it is known to many of you, but also maybe many of you are not aware of it, that in the whole space, India is having only 5-degree allocation for keeping its spacecraft. And these spacecraft life till date is getting predicted or estimated through bookkeeping method. That is, all the result has been done in the on the ground, and all type of misalignment, main thrust for putting it from the geostationary orbit, all is done here, and how much fuel is getting exhausted, that result is getting collected, and from there the life of spacecraft at 12 years has become estimated. But practically what happens, many times it has been observed, sometimes fuel is existing, but you have to remove it from the allocation because you cannot take a call. Idle spacecraft you cannot keep on the orbit. If you can increase by only 1 month, it's a huge economical benefit, if by 1 month even. So this was the main motivation, because and who is basically responsible for this life? It is the propellant. The propellant, if I can guess the propellant sitting in some sensor can be there, which can find the actual amount of propellant is existing there, sitting on the spacecraft, that can enhance the life of the spacecraft. That was the actual need of this project. And we started this project by thinking of using piezo sensor. And then the next. Yeah. So if you, this is the fuel schematic of from spacecraft. And if you see, there are two, UFM1 and UFM2, there we have thought of to place the flow meter, which will be on the path of the propellant. Go to the next. And how? Now, here is the schematic of that. The two sensors which you are finding here, green color, those two are the ultrasonic transducer. And both are simultaneously, they will fire. One is along the direction of propellant and one is opposite to the direction. And from this velocity difference or the time difference, actual amount of propellant is getting estimated. Go to the next. So if you see, because it's for spacecraft, that means everything has to be indigenous. From the hardware, transducer, electronics, till ground calibration. So all are jointly we are doing. Some part NML is doing, some part LPSC or ISRO is doing. Even the crystal is getting made. To the next. Here are a couple of sensors which has been prepared for these applications, and also the fixture, how it can be placed on that mechanical jig which I have shown you. That has been done. Go to the next. Okay, Asha, go above. Go to the first. So go to the previous. Yeah. So here actually we have already no Chandan next. Here already we have done the ground testing and was successfully done up to the 6 LPM. What is requirement for the liquid flow rate to be measured with a proper accuracy which is needed. That was already done. And in the second phase, what we are doing now, we are now developing these devices using space qualified components so that it can be used for the spacecraft, and all testing will be continuing. And this is an ongoing process now, and we are hoping our plan was to finish it previous year only, but because of by this year, but because of this pandemic, everything has delayed. We are hoping maybe by December we will complete all this work. At least one part will be covered up, and we can show some result on our space qualified components. And maybe next year or next year, if it clears all the space rules and regulations, then maybe the first spacecraft can be designed with an integrated this flow meter into the in our Indian spacecraft. Go to the next. Another applications of this PJT, like a long pipe. Suppose it's a kilometer long pipe, and how will you? And it's underground, buried. So how will you test it? Because these are very, very important, because most of the time corrosion is a factor which gives the leaking. And you know, the gas leaking or the oil pipe leaking means what a huge impact on cost. Okay. So how will you do that? So there is a technique which is called long range guided wave ultrasonic, where the wave propagates to the pipe thickness, and it can go few kilometers without much loss, and get the information of the defects of this whole large area, and only from placing it in one position. Okay. And here, if you use the piezo, generally what is getting used nowadays, it is the piezo sensor, but it's very bulky because so many piezo crystal, it's like a bracelet you have to place on the surface of the whole pipe. You can see one example I have given here, the picture. And then whole system becomes few kg weight, and carrying it becomes a bit difficult. So we have come up with another approach which we call magnetostriction material. And what is this magnetostriction material? We know that magnetostriction property is the change in magnetic material dimension with field, and that also can create your ultrasound wave. So basically in this case you are generating the ultrasound wave using a material which also changes its dimension, like piezo material. Go to the next, Chandan. Go to the next. Go to the next. This I have already talked about. Yeah. Stop here. Now, what is the go to the previous one. Yes, stop here. Yeah. So if you see the two, one is the left corner is the piezo sensor, and the right down corner is the MSS sensor. The advantage of the MSS sensor is that you can just wrap it around, because it's like a ribbon and very thin, 120 micron. So it's very lightweight, but can give you the same type of sensitivity. You can play with the material as per the requirement. So these are the advantages of using MSS. And NML, go to the next. NML is having a very good expertise in developing this type of ribbon material. We are having the facility also where we can develop this material, and now we can tailor-made this property of this material by changing the material compositions. So work we are also doing on that by developing this magnetostriction based guided wave sensor and also the device. This is also one ongoing effort of NML. Go to the next. So if you both the example I have given, it is on embedding. So you are embedding the sensor on the body of the test material and getting the information. In case of spacecraft, you can get the information at the ground and through telemetry. And in case of MSS sensor in the big pipeline, in one place you can wrap around and can monitor the whole pipe, few kilometer pipe sitting in one place. So these are one example of PJT and two examples what NML are doing in the piezo and MSS embedded sensor. But most of our embedded sensor work is on fiber Bragg grating. And this is because one of our sister laboratory, CGCRI, they are having the facility, very good facility to develop optical fiber and also to write grating. So we are using that facility and collaborating with CGCRI for developing, for using this material for a couple of different applications. I think I don't have to explain FBG in this forum, but still, what is fiber Bragg grating? In one word, we shall normally say fiber Bragg grating is a wavelength selective filter. It's a band rejection filter which follow the Bragg wavelength formula. That means lambda b is 2 ineffective delta, whereas delta is the spacing between the perturbation, n is the refractive index. So what actually we do? We know any optical fiber is basically used for communication. Why? Because it's have a large number of advantages. No interference, no loss is the minimum. So you can get maximum energy transfer from one end to another end of large length is quite long. But in case of the sensor, when it is used as a sensor, it's in a reverse way we think. That is, we create some perturbation. So some opaque transparent area has been generated, and depending on the spacing of this perturbation, that particular wavelength, instead of propagating through the fiber, it returns to the source, towards the source. And if you capture that, so that means you are removing one wavelength from your full spectrum, and that wavelength you are taking back towards your own transmitting side. So similarly, if I can create different perturbation of different spacing, so what I can do? I can have different wavelength, wavelength at my transmitting end. So you can imagine in a one fiber, I can write number of sensor because each sensor is having different wavelength. So since each sensor is having a different wavelength, so in a 1 meter of fiber, I can write number of maybe 100 number of sensors if they are not superimposing into each other, where I am going to apply it for measurement purpose. Like if I want to measure temperature. Now, because of temperature change, if wavelength lambda 1 plus delta lambda become equal to lambda 2, that means I cannot segregate these two wavelengths. So this is the only parameter I have to look into, that for my particular applications, a change in wavelength should not coincide with the wavelength of the fiber, another grating sensor what I have written on the fiber. Where we are going to use this thing, go to the next. So if you see the sensing mechanism, two things are very nicely can be monitored by the fiber Bragg grating sensor. One is the strength, so it can be used as a strain sensor. Another is the temperature. But very important to note that we must use fiber Bragg grating sensor where the normal strain gauge and the thermocouple is ruled out. These two things where you cannot use, we must use FBG there only, because other two are so sturdy and so cheap. I should not go for a very costly fiber Bragg grating sensor where I can simply use my thermocouple or strain gauge. So this is very important to understand. Though FBG has lots of uniqueness and benefit, but this can be only used where strain gauge and thermocouples are ruled out. That is the first principle we must follow. And we have followed those things where these two things are exactly we cannot use. So these are the all uniqueness. I think all of you mostly aware about it. There is no electromagnetic interference or RFI immunity. High multiplexing capability, suitable in hazardous environment because one single fiber you can make a groove and paste it. Measurement without referencing, no electrical signal, tiny sensor embedded in structures. Go to the next. So I'll give you two examples of this fiber bracketing. One is in process control and one to avoid catastrophic, customers. So go to the next. Before going to the process control, I just would like to tell you how difficult the area is to pinpoint that. I have given this picture because many of you may be not so much aware about steel industry, just like I was also not aware when I was a student or electronics person. If you, our world steel production is whatever, the 90% is through continuous casting. And in continuous casting, the liquid steel falls on a ladle and from there it comes through a meniscus. It's called a mold. And this mold is the main parameter which gives the property, whether it is a slab caster for sheet or it is a billet caster for rod or wire. In this mold, this liquid actually semi-solidifies and take the shape when it comes out. Go to the next, Chandra. And this mold temperature basically gives the property of the billet or the slab which is coming out. There could be very fine cracks which you have to avoid, and that is because of the whatever temperature within the mold. The shape can be changed because in case of a billet, it's a rectangle, it's a square. That square could be rhomboidic, or another is the breakout because many times it happens, it solidifies within before coming out, and if that happens, then it creates an havoc. You have to clean it, you have to stop the production, and that takes minimum 6 to 7 hours. So there is a huge production loss. Go to the next. Now here, as I told, where thermocouple is ruled out. Think of a billet mold which is cylindrical in shape, copper mold, which is looking on the right side, you can see. And that goes inside a jacket, and surrounding that there is high pressure water is sprinkling. And in that, you cannot make a hole. So suppose you want, okay, I will embed thermocouple. How many thermocouple in a 1 meter length mold you will do? So it will look like, if you look at the left side, it will look like a patient with large number of tubes in his body. And all these tubes has to come out from the mold plate. So this is completely ruled out. Thermocouple cannot be used. So till date, any billet mold, there is no way of measuring the temperature of the mold face. And whatever decision is getting made, that is based on the mathematical model. See, look at the right side. Here we have embedded 5 sensors. 5 FBG has been written, and only 1 fiber is coming out. This actually can be done in the industrial environment, in that hazardous. If I show the next slide, you can understand how hazardous and how the situation is there where we have placed this sensor. Show the next. Chandan, click on the video. So this is basically at the caster, and if you see the square face on the top, that is the top of the billet, and only single fiber is coming out. And you see how liquid metal falls into this. Look at this. How this liquid metal is falling into this mold. Can you imagine if there is any leakage? 1200, 1800 degree liquid metal, if it comes in with water and in a together, then what will happen? It will be an explosion. And all these results you are getting at the control room. So here is industry 2.0 actually. And you can take a call, and these are the whole live data, real-time data, which has been captured throughout the life of the caster and has been verified through the model. The red dots are all experimental data at that depth where we have placed our sensor, and all other are from the mathematical model data. So this is the first time billet mold model has been verified through the experimental data by embedding fiber Bragg rating sensor on the mold, and those data captured real time throughout the life of the caster. This work we have completed in 2016, and now in another caster already one experiment has continued completed, and another and we are going for further experimentations on the, and further work on this and implementing this thing completely as an instrumented billet mold, which may come up in the market, we are hoping, in the coming few years. Go to the next. Another example of the embedded sensor for the temperature monitoring by fiber Bragg rating. This is again another huge big problem. See the right side, it's a typical picture from the shop floor of a blast furnace. You see how many cables are there. So it's a so large number of cables there, and now in that pipe they want to monitor the temperature. Again, you may say, why not, ma'am? There could be a IR camera I can monitor, but IR camera cannot go or focus the inaccessible area for which region you want to monitor the temperature. So the next is thermocouple. So thermocouple, if I put there, how many thermocouples and 2 leads each thermocouple? So you can imagine how many cable will come out, and that is also not allowed. So again, we took up here the challenge is the fiber Bragg rating. Here the fiber Bragg rating can work up to 700 degrees. Generally, it is up to 200 degrees. There is no problem. Polymer coated fiber can be used. But here we have used special fiber. We have used special type of junction box so that it can work up to 700 degrees centigrade. Thanks to CGCRI for that. And what is the problem here? In this pipe, there is hot air blows. And you can see how this is called blow pipe, how this blow pipe has burst, and after that there is a crack initiated. Can you imagine? 1200 degree air is blowing through this. And if there is a crack, and if this air comes out, what happens? The operator who is working there is blown up. Whole plant is shut down. So production loss and also the loss of human life. So it's very important here to find before failure if we can predict the condition of this pipe. And like that, there are in one blast furnace, there are 34 blowpipes. That means you need for all 34 blowpipes such a huge number of data, and you have to predict which blowpipe is in critical condition, where from, and based on this, the plant can be properly shut down, and there can be a plant shutdown, and that blowpipe can be exchanged with a new one. So this is the whole objective of this work. Go to the next. So this was our first work where we have embedded 6 sensors on the blowpipe and put it on the blast furnace, and continuously we monitored the data. Fortunately, till we monitored, there was no critical situation has happened, but what it can do, what implication is having. So what we are doing here, we are first doing the simulation of the whole thing, because all these sensors are basically giving you the data, localized data. That means where the sensor is sitting, I am getting the temperature of that location. Now it's a huge pipe of 3 to 4 meters. How many, and the dia is nearly half a meter. How many sensor in this whole circular structure I will place to get 100% coverage of the blowpipe? It's really impossible. And if it is possible, the cost will be huge. The amount of loss the plant is getting, I think the cost of implementing this type of instrumented blowpipe will be far ahead than that. So our first approach is do a simulation, find the whole thermal distribution, and then find critical optimized number of sensors required to regenerate the thermal image of the whole body. That means you need to develop a trained system with a minimum number of inputs. And then on that location, we will place the sensor and monitor the whole body through this minimum number of sensors. So here it is fully equipped with, first is the sensor. If I talk about the industrial IoT, then the first thing is the sensor. Second is a trained system development. And the third is predicting the location from this huge number of data and take an appropriate action before it actually happening. So that means before any problem is actually happening, you can predict that potential location and can take a preventive action. So this is the whole objective of this work, and we are on not yet finished this work. We are on the way of that. Only the feasibility things has already been done, and we are on the process. 1 year project it is. Let's see after 1 year where we are. Next. So now I'm coming to one briefing of this as I'm talking about sensor. So as it is definitely true that it's the heart. Once you get that data from the sensor, it could be any type of sensor. So that means one part is material development, sensor characterization, and choice of particular actual sensor which is required for that particular applications. So this is one hand. The second hand, when once it is cleared, yeah, yes, I need this type of sensor, then do the lab-based calibration. Because ND means it's an indirect method. It's not a direct method. That means you need a proper calibration. So do the calibration, do the simulation in the lab, and then when everything is done, then you implement it, process the data to segregate the false and real information, predict the probability of failure, incorporate AI, IoT, machine learning, and then create warning. This whole thing will give you a real safe environment of the industry where your production is secured, your safety is secured, and also your reliable maintenance is secured. Go to the next one. When I'm talking about all this, so this is the future success from reactive to more predictive. I think already I have explained this thing when I was talking about blowpipe analysis. So these all things we request. I think today in this scenario, in this forum, I must put up a request to all of you. Please come up with an expertise on this, which is really needed today for lab-based research to come out and go to the industry applicable research. Go to the next, and then here I have given a flavor of a couple of sensors, and because I have not explained all, in my next lecture, Tarun will explain a couple of devices from here. That's why I have skipped all those, keeping it for Tarun. Go to the next. Yeah, and today when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and I think we are quite towards that direction. Tarun will explain Flowguard and Zincometer. This really is going to be a big import substitution because there is no way other than buying from outside, and we can take over this thing. Even the Maxter Tarun will explain. So we are towards that. And what I have talked about, flow gauge, that is the device for onboard life estimation of spacecraft, that will be definitely of Indian glory of Indian spacecraft, but self-reliance more towards that, where we are already persisting on that. And all these things, go to the next, would not have been possible if I won't have a blend of right disciplines group, which I am leading, because this is a group where you need multidisciplinary researchers. My group is a very nice blend. I'm from physics and electronics. Tarun is from instrumentation. Urpita from electrical. Ashish from chemistry and material science. Abhijit is from mechanical. Amit mechanical, Prem is metallurgy, Rajat metallurgy, and Abhishek is electrical. Along with that, we are really blessed with a very good group of students. One of my student Chandan is already here, and really a very good group of students and devoted group of students who are allowing us to come up from the lab-based research towards industry applicable based research. And I think this can give you also a flavor how we are into that area. Go to the next channel. I think it is a thank you only. So thank you all for listening to me. And I think I'm on time. 10 minutes I have given for the question answers. And if any questions or any queries, please do that. Thank you. Thank you all. Hey, Chandan, no, it is not.
So now I will request all the audience, if they have any kind of question regarding to NDT or electronics or the sensors which has been explained by ma'am, feel free to ask, and all sorts of queries we will try to address them.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, tell.
Good morning, madam. I have a question that actually when we are discussing about the ultrasonic, how it will be useful for the continuous monitoring?
Yeah, because you can continuous monitoring. That's why I was saying for PJT also you can just embed in different locations and can get the continuous data. But most of the time in industry, the way they do it is during the shutdown period, and they do maintenance time measurement. Most of the cases it is not continuous monitoring, but we are towards that so that we can develop techniques which can be used for the continuous monitoring. And continuous monitoring can only be possible by embedding things, otherwise not. Embedding sensor into the body during installation.
Is there any technique that ultrasonic can be used for the continuous?
There's like a crawler you use. Suppose sensor is fixed on a crawler, and that crawler goes up to that, suppose the big structure in any direction, and you can get the continuous data from that. Okay, but it also depends on the speed of the crawler, and but again, it is not during running condition. Again, it is during shutdown condition. So continuous monitoring is only possible, as I told, it is during installation. If you embed sensor and the sensor output is available with you in the control room, and you can do the continuous monitoring. But everything depends on your application. Where are you going to apply?
Okay. So suppose I'm going for the continuous monitoring, so I can use the FBG for that.
As I told, ultrasonic and FBG completely different applications. FBG cannot be used for the defect detection. So what is your application? That is the most important part. FBG can be used as a strain sensor or as a temperature sensor. That means it can measure temperature or strain. But ultrasonic sensor we use for the condition, means whether there is any defect in the material or there is any thinning in the material due to corrosion. Those things FBG cannot measure. Okay. So depending on your application, first of all, you have to choose your sensor. And once you have chosen your sensor, if you want to do continuous monitoring, that means you need the sensor must be placed there, embedded there, and you are getting the result. There are continuous bridge monitoring sensors. Already PJT sensor are in many places already bonded, and you are getting continuous data from there for monitoring the bridge, health of the bridge. So you have to understand where are you going to apply, whether in that applications, what type of distance my sensor is applicable or not. Am I clear?
Yes, yes. Another question, ma'am. You discussed about the therapy, okay? Like that is a possibility that when you can suppose there is a defect or also through ultrasonic you can do the therapy also. So how,
This is not like suppose some microstructure is a coarse grain. You can use ultrasound to make it a fine grain. Okay. Even because high intensity ultrasound has been used even to make a nanocrystalline material, okay, on the surface. So your whole surface become nanocrystal. Because when you impinge very high intensity ultrasound for a very short period, it's like a short bursting. Okay. And that moment, the temperature goes like it says, it's a temperature of sun. Okay. And it's like so spontaneous like a lightning. So for a very short duration of time, you are getting a very high temperature and changing the whole property of the material for that period. And that's why this high intensity ultrasound is being used in many cases, like welding. In case of welding, it is being used. In case of microstructure change from the coarse grain to fine grain, that is used. In case of joining, it is used. So in a couple of cases, we use like cleaning. When you do the ultrasonic cleaning, how you do? You use high intensity ultrasound, and it is clearing your gold cleaning, any jewelry cleaning. You use ultrasonic cleaning. These are all therapeutic.
Hello.
Yeah.
Madam, I have one question regarding the crack sensor. Can the fiber optic sensors are used for smart crack sensing?
See, when you have some crack, no, then there is some change in strain also. So it's an indirect way you can measure, but you have to calibrate it first.
Now, can the fiber optic sensor used in that case?
As I told, if there is because of crack, if there is a change in strain, and that I can calibrate, then fiber bracketting can be used there. But where you want to use it, that is important.
The fiber of sensors are.
What type of crack? What is your applications? It can be used, but should I use FBG in that case, or I have some another very cheap solution for that? So I will go for that cheap solution.
Sure. Okay. Another question. Which types of more intrinsic or extrinsic fibers are used preferable for that type of sensor? Intrinsic or extrinsic?
Which type of applications you are asking for?
Intrinsic or extrinsic embedded purpose or embedded fiber optic sensor?
No, any fiber optic sensor you have to embed, otherwise you cannot get. Because fiber optic, if you don't embed, how it will take the temperature? Okay, or its strain. So when you measure the temperature, when you measure the strain, you need a temperature calibrator, because of the temperature also there will be a change. So there will be nothing, a fiber bracketing we can use with a loose. That is, you can place it on something and it can sense. It is never. You have to embed. Either you have to paste it on the body, or you have to do a proper encapsulation. Because it has to sense, no, it has to come in contact of that. It has to sense that thing.
Sure. In that case, dispersion losses may be there.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying no, all calibration you have to do in-house, so that including all these loss, what is how much gain you have to give, so that you are getting after the loss, still you are getting the amplitude quite high, which is measurable.
So,
and all these things is the lab-based calibration.
For coupling or coupling purpose, the fiber optic sensors, is it possible for coupling?
No, we are not using for the coupling purpose here. Coupling is the fiber coupling, so that is a different work. We are using it as a temperature or strain sensor only, not for the coupling purpose. See, coupling and all are the for normal fiber, optical fiber part.
That is the part.
Yeah, but I am not talking about the fiber part. I am talking about the fiber bracketting part. I am talking about the sensor part, not the fiber part.
The fiber sensors, it can be connected.
If you want to avoid this, you need to do coupling. You need to amplify that signal. So those are the separate part, which is the auxiliary part of the fiber of your instrumentation.
One more question. What types of buffers are used for protecting coating? Between cladding and a jacket, what types of buffers
This, as I
are
told you, this type of all fiber integrity is being done by CGCRI. We are not doing that. Okay, so that is their own patent. Okay, this is not NML what we are doing. Our application is the same. Instead of buying from the market, we are taking from them and using is added different sensor applications for as a sensor, and giving the exam everything, whatever, how to write the sensor, what will be the spacing, what is the wavelength range we want, and on that, in that wavelength range, how many sensor has to be written, all informations for the fabrication we are giving it to CGCRI, and they are just assuring what type of coating. Just like for 700 degree, we are using gold coating, not polymer coating. Okay, and then jacket and all proper care has been taken so that it should not come up, because you cannot use polymer coated fiber at 700 degrees centigrade. This coating will not remain there. It will completely wiped out.
Hello.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there is one query regarding therapeutic use using ultrasonic. Is it just used for surface treatment, or can it be used for in-depth material also?
When we do in a liquid, no, in a liquid stage, it does for the whole bulk. Okay. Full bulk material property changes. When it is in a, if you apply liquid ultrasound, high intensity ultrasound in a liquid stage.
In a liquid stage, actually, okay, during the molten stage.
Yes, molten stage. And
Okay.
but if suppose already you have a solid material.
Yeah.
And then you want to introduce, then it will be mostly the surface, because many cases we need surface hardened, isn't it?
Yes.
So this can be used for hardened surface in a localized area. So wherever you are doing the ultrasound treatment, the hardness will change of that area, because that area microstructure we are going to change. So it can do selective hardening of the material, like in a car body. Everywhere you may not need hardening, isn't it?
Right. Right.
Normally we do by different heat treatment method, where the whole area becomes microstructure of area becomes changes, isn't? But by applying ultrasound, high intensity ultrasound, you can make it very much localized area, where particular in which area you need to change the microstructure. There's a very nice work by Illinois University, and they have shown how the surface nanocrystalline tube they have formed using high intensity ultrasound. That work, of course, we have not done, but we have done some work where surface hardening has been changed using high intensity ultrasound.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Any more question from the audience side? So feel free to ask. There is no foundation, because I can see here in chat box few people, I think Srinath Raman Natarajan, they have asked about that in ultrasonic module, you told that NZ and FZ, how to vary NZ. It is either by structure or by some electronics, that is oscillator input, or we can make.
I saw that question. Actually, I have already shown how NZ can be changed, because when you make this crystal, there is a all sensor, mostly all these sensors are circular. And when you buy any ultrasonic sensor, you have to write what is the diameter of the sensor and what is the frequency. Now, if you see the near-zone relation, it is related to the diameter and the frequency. So from that, you can find out what will be the value of near zone. Or if you know you want this much of near zone value, at this frequency applications, then what will be the dia of your sensor? It is only on the diameter and the frequency.
So I think
One question in chat box by Shweta Vanwal. She asking which type of sensor we have used in SHM.
So that's on application based. You cannot say which type of. SHM is a vast area. Structural health monitoring. Suppose you are doing for bridge, you are doing for building, you are doing for component. So everything, any sensor choice is based on your application. If I want to get surface information, I can use eddy current. I can use magnetic particle inspection. But if I want to have bulk inspection, only ultrasonic can be used. So like that, it's solely dependent on your applications. Like if I want to use in concrete and I want to get whether there is any crack, then the frequency and of the sensor for ultrasonic measurement will be completely different, because it's a very porous material. If you use high frequency, they're all attenuate, there will be fully attenuation. So you need low frequency. So normally concrete and ceramic structure, concrete, especially concrete structure getting done by temperature range of 20 kilohertz, 40 kilohertz, maximum 100 kilohertz. Whereas for metal, we talk about only megahertz. It starts from 1 megahertz. So everything depends on your application.
One comment from Rachna CR. Speaker is excellent and having vast experience. Thank you, organizer, for having as one of the response person. So thank you, Rachna. This type of comment gives me a strength that really I have chosen a good kind of a speaker. So if you like the speaker, you also write something about the speaker. So thank you all for participating, and attendance is also very good in this session. Almost 145 attendance reached in this session. So thank you all, and thank you, Madam. Dr. Pratul Arvind, you want to say something? So thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful and interactive session with industrial and lab experience.
Thank you.
Okay, now we end the session. The next session will start at 12 noon.
Hello.
By Dr. Tarun Das. Dr. Pratul Arvind, you want to say something?
Huh?
Yes, Dr. Arvind.
हाँ एक मिनट रुको हाँ हेलो
Yes, audible.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Pratul Arvind, you are audible, please say.
It is, and I appreciate the sincere effort of all.
Sir, I think Dr. Arvind is having some problem with his mic, so
Okay, no problem.
he got muted right now. So again, I want to thank ma'am for at least for appreciating our hard work, what we do generally in lab. And I would also like to thank Jayendra sir for arranging this kind of forum where we get lots of appreciation, and even we get to show what we are doing at CSIR NML. So,
Excuse me, sir.
So Chandan, I'm leaving.
Hello.
Can I
Okay,
leave?
ma'am.
Excuse me, sir.
there is a question.
Excuse me. Excuse
Yeah,
me,
tell
madam.
me.
Madam,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
ask
Yeah,
one
sure,
question?
Yeah, you're free.
With
yeah,
your
sure, go ahead.
permission.
Yeah, you're free.
Still I'm
No
here.
problem.
Yes, sir.
We are
Madam,
here for solving
in
our
case,
problem.
Madam, in case of ultrasonic transmission, there is one
Yeah.
problem because of many interface which may affect the strength of the echo in the receiver
Yes.
side. How to solve that problem?
No, that's fully your what is your process you are making it, because sensor can be made by very different methods. It can be tape casting method is there. There is normal piezo processing composites method is there. So depending on what type of process you are adapting, that is important for getting the property of the sensor. So I cannot comment immediately ki what you can do for improving this loss factor.
That may affect the accuracy. Is it affect the accuracy?
But nothing that. But if your sensor attenuation is very high, then what will happen? It will be restricted for some particular application. Suppose your material thickness is very high, then you cannot use it because whole sound wave will be absorbed within the material. So it cannot be used for the practical purposes. So that is the reason I am continuously saying one thing, that your
That
application is very much important. Where you are going to use it. Maybe
I
for thin
face
sheet
that,
you will have no problem.
practically, I face that problem due
Yes.
to any interfacing, and that affect the.
Yeah, because your wave, it may distort your wave, and also it will not propagate, it will not allow your wave to propagate further.
Okay.
You will have to look into your process more, and then refine your process. Yeah.
Liquid level measurement process.
Yeah, and also refine your process. Maybe compaction is not proper, then maybe coupling is not, well, many couple things are there. No, maybe the coupling is not proper, so it is not going, mostly it is air is coming into. So if also the matching layer is very, very important, how you are putting the matching layer.
Yes. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Bonding is very, very important for ultrasonic sensor. There should not be any air gap.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Can I leave now?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So to the audience, we will again gather here just after 10 minutes because the next session will begin from 12 p.m. onwards. So you can have a break for 5 or 10 minutes and then again we will be back here.
Chandan.
Yes, sir. Tell, sir. I am here, sir.
Please stop.
Am I audible, sir?
Please stop the recording. Yes.
Okay, sir.